reasons, if she does not report it, it would be a failure to act that could result in negligence. Is that right?
Yes.
I would agree that it's a
Yeah,
failure.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote, and I just started questioning myself all of a sudden. I was nervous, to get all the lingo right.
Okay, if I go out again, y'all just keep on going.
Okay.
Okay, we've got the weather.
You want me to?
So somebody
Okay.
record on their end just in case as well.
Okay.
Can you do that?
I just sent you the
I can do
request,
it.
Dr. Stedman.
Okay, got you.
I think you have to give permission.
Yeah, I just did. Okay, who was the last one that reported out? Malika?
No, it's my go now.
Who's go?
Mine. Malika.
Malika, go ahead, Malika.
Okay. So I didn't want to repeat everything everyone has already said. I in 100% agreement with you all, but I kind of was going to just touch on what Stacy said. I don't think we have the option whether to report it or not. It's our obligation to report it, whether it was 2 years or 10 years, etc. And I also noted that I would definitely report it to who I need to report it to. And I know that human resources normally guide us through the process and tell us exactly what to do and follow their directives. Is kind of what I said.
Very good. Somebody have something differently that you would like to share?
One of the things that I wanted to say is it's really important, as an administrator before going into the position, I almost knew what I needed to do. However, I think part of the process and having the transparency or the communication with the district is like, when I have this information, like, for example, we had a teacher that wasn't, it wasn't a sexual thing, but she was not doing the right thing. She was handling students inappropriately. So it's like, okay, I have this information, like, but where do I go with it? So one of the things is, as I was reading, is that every school district in the state of North Carolina needs to have a Title IX coordinator. So that's really important. And that, as an administrator, is somebody that you should know, because you don't think that you're going to be put into these situations, but you often are, and you need to know how to handle that.
Title IX, again, is specifically dealing with what gender?
It could be any gender, but it's sexual.
Okay, right.
It's sexual misconduct.
But Title IX, in a large sense, protects. Well, in the past, it protected the female population. That's, I think, when it first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it deals with student, misconduct. Again, with like teachers and students, but it also could be teachers, administrators. I think
you're exactly right. Yes,
large umbrella.
Right.
So I think for me in this new role, that was really important to know what those processes are, and handling these situations. Really important.
There's a lot of sub areas under Title IX, so you need to be familiar with all of that. And I'm sure Dr. Lamb and whomever has shared a lot of that with you whenever you were going through a lot of it. You can't cover all of it in that short a period of time. Somebody else, Elizabeth?
Well, and I was going to mention the Title IX policies, but my question is, a lot of what we talked about in our school law course is that you first notify law enforcement. And is that with acting within district policy, when you are in the real world, do you immediately notify law enforcement, or do you notify the superintendent first?
You follow following the law means that you follow your policy and procedures. You let them know. Now, one of the times that I would not contact them first is if it's dealing with social services, and you turn it over to your social worker or somebody. You don't do it as the principal. You don't make that call. You turn it over to the people that you've got employed that handles those situations. However, if it's a case big enough, you let them handle it, but you also make your superintendent's office know what's going on at the same time. Um, but 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 no, I wouldn't go directly to the law without somebody, my contact person at Central Services, knowing what was going on.
Yeah, in our school district, we have to contact the Title IX coordinator. If it is a teacher that is on our campus, we did let the SRO know so that, in other words, he can just keep track of the teacher, making sure that there was nothing further going on. But it went right through the Title IX coordinator. Within the hour, Human Resources was in the building.
There's usually
It's very quick.
your system usually has a contact person, and if you don't know who that person is, I probably would ask my principal, who is that contact person? So you need to know that. Okay, Caitlin?
If somebody already said this, I'm sorry, I came in late, but
Okay.
our school district has started, because subs are hard to find, our school district has started like outsourcing them, and they're not necessarily run through the school district. So since that's the case, of course, we have to handle it as the school and with HR, but how does that work in cahoots with the outsourcing agency?
Well, our system does the same thing. However, even with the outsourcing, we know a lot of the people, especially if you're more of a community-based district. But I think that you would handle it no differently than if you were, in fact, outsourcing. I would be more cognizant of what was going on, with who's in my classrooms. And they're supposed to be vetted in order to be able to substitute. So there should have been background checks done. So the only thing you can do is trust that system. But if you suspect anything wrong, then you handle it no differently than you would if it was somebody from your community that you were calling yourself. You would contact Central Services immediately, because even with that vetted system, there should be somebody that is over that at the Central Services area as well. So, you would still have a responsibility to report it immediately, no matter what, and then let them handle, the system. So, okay, I'm going to let see. I haven't heard from Douglas. Haven't heard from Stacy. Did I hear from you, Stacy?
I just asked the group a question about nonfeasance, but I think that's when you were going in and out.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, well then we won't go back over that then. Okay, Douglas and Mayra, you're gonna bring the benediction to this. Either Douglas or who goes first. Both of you, need to hear you say something, but just kind of bring the benediction to all of this.
Well, I mean, I just kind of second or third everything that the rest of the class has mentioned, and that I would report it immediately. My concern obviously is the current students that he is interacting with. So that was kind of my big concern, making sure that they're safe. And I know in my response, because I know some of these allegations can be, so he's innocent until proven guilty, correct? So, obviously it's my job to handle it immediately and make sure that students are safe, but I would want to handle it in a sensitive way that it's not going to completely ruin this person's reputation. So if it is unsubstantiated, so I would definitely try to handle it with care, but not, but keep my students, the current students of that school in mind, make sure that they're safe.
And confidentiality is important, because you can be held liable for saying things that you shouldn't say. Okay, Paulette, I forgot that you have not spoken either. So it's Paulette and Douglas.
I was trying to speak earlier, but some people were saying the same things I was thinking
Okay.
and reading on
Uh-huh.
my paper here. So I didn't want to
Okay.
interrupt, but
Okay, go ahead.
um basically too that we're responsible for that information since it was given to us, so we're mandated reporters. But I was also thinking, how could he come back on the school for not allowing him to work? And I was thinking of misfeasance, but at the same time, our responsibility to the students overrides that. So I don't see where the school would be liable for him financially by not letting him work there, because of the severity of the situation. So, but that could be something that he would try to come against the school for without any proof. You're not letting me work here.
Well, it
Isn't
would be the
is it
school
usually paid
system.
leave?
Where
Because
he
because he's
could
a
go ahead.
substitute teacher, because he's a substitute teacher, he would not fall under the umbrella. He's not contracted, so
Right.
that he would not get paid leave. If he was a contracted employee, he would get paid leave. The reason why is because they need to investigate the claim.
Not
Right,
only
and that,
Yeah,
that,
it
and
just
that's
depends on
good.
how your district handles substitute teachers, though. Because
Right.
see, in our building, we have some full-time subs, um, that and they're paid differently than like just someone that's called, you know, from time to time.
see,
So
If
not
it
only
depends on
Paulette
how
and
they're
Dina,
employed.
those are good points, but remember, that's out of your hands. That goes to HR and the district, and they have to handle it, after that. So, just remember, you have done your job when you've reported it. And sometimes, not sometimes, basically then you back off and let the other people handle it, and you just go on and run your school after that. That. Okay, hold a minute, Renee. Douglas?
One thing I wanted to add is, as an administrator moving forward, because I know we talked about the waitress and whether or not she felt she had a safe space or whatever to report this when it happened 10 years ago, is making sure that their current students feel safe, because if this allegation is true, it's hard to believe that 10 years went by and he didn't do anything before the cousin came along. So one one law that we have here in South Carolina, which happened to, you know, to come into effect because of a student at my school, is Gavin's law, where they talked about sexual extortion, and giving kids a safe space if they feel like they were being sexually extorted. And I know the waitress, she didn't want to report it because she didn't want the pictures to get put out there. So reviewing that or sending out that policy and making sure parents are aware of it and make sure students are aware of it. So if that it has happened to someone else, or whether it's from Mr. Moss or anybody else, that those students, current students, have a safe space to report and feel safe at school now.
Very well said, Douglas. Renee?
Okay, so before I became a teacher, I was a human resource manager, and North Carolina is an at-will state. So that means that you do not have to be fired or removed for cause. They could just do it because they want to, and there's nothing legally
Right.
that you can do about it unless you have a contract that says X, Y, and Z. So really and truly, you can remove him, no questions asked, and he just has to go because we are an at-will state, and a lot of southern states are.
Right. That's a good point. I just want to say you've brought out a lot of great points. Dr. Lamb will be very happy when I tell him how you have responded tonight, and I will call him tomorrow and talk with him and let him know. I was very impressed with the terminology that came out in some of your narrative work, the malfeasance, and that let me know that you had embraced things that you had learned in 603, and there were some other things that came out as well. But great job, guys. Great job. Very pleased with this. Very pleased. And we're going to move on. We could go on and talk forever on this. I love these kinds of conversations. We learn so much from each other. I'm going to share my screen, and let me go ahead and get some of the Let me find it. Here it is. Okay. Can everybody see that? Okay, let's look at what is due. Your assignment this week is about the Johari window, and there's an assignment. Well, let me actually come out of that. Anyway, look at this. We're going to go back to the assignment itself. These are 3 things that are under week 3 that you need to be familiar with. This basically tells you what is the Johari window. It explains it and helps you better understand it. This is actually a short YouTube that helps you better understand what you've read. And this is a Johari window online test. I want everybody to take the test. And when you can put the results of your test when you submit your assignment, you can put the results of this test in there. And what we're going to do next week is, when we come back, how we've talked about, just like we've talked about the case study today, we're going to talk about the results of the test, and we're going to talk about, what you, as you're doing self-reflection, what it says to you. What did you learn about you? And that's what I want us to do next week, whenever we're doing these round discussions. Let me come out of this. I should have done that. Let me go to and assignments to grade. And forgive me, I'm still having to maneuver my way around all of this stuff. This is the Johari window assignment. One of the things that, and Elizabeth has already responded to this as well. She's going to be she's leaving for vacation and some work, so she's gotten ahead on her assignments. But from your Glickman chapter 6, it explains the concept of the Johari window. So I want you to read that and why it would be important for a school leader to know thyself. This is important. I want you to be able to talk more about knowing thyself based on what Glickman is saying in chapter 6. Please observe confidentiality, but I want you to cite an example of cognitive dissonance in a leader from your experience. And then, Stump, you might review the list of supervisory behaviors on page 90 and 91, which you're going to do an assignment with that as well. But anyway, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle as you complete this assignment. I think you're going to enjoy it, though, and I think you'll learn something about yourself that you didn't know based on doing this short activity. It doesn't take a long time, but all of this, you submit anything you want to for me to look at when you are submitting your assignment for grade. Anything that you reflect on here, you can put anything in there as a part of your assignment for me, okay, that you want to, and then I'll look at all of it. Are there any questions about this assignment? Everybody got it? Okay, and then let's look at, and the only reason I'm going to ask you to look at assignment 4 is because it refers to this assignment. You're not going to do it, but you're going to, it's referring you to that assignment. And this is also going to be a self-reflection as you look at this supervisory behavior continuum. You may decide that, while you're there, go ahead and knock this assignment out as well, since it's asking you to look at it. So, that's the only reason I'm telling you to look at this. And that way you'll have 2 assignments knocked out at one time. Again, none of them are long assignments, but I want you to put some thought into it and again, do some self-reflection as you're looking at that. So any questions about assignment 3, and then just take a look at assignment 4 as well. Any questions? Okay. Just a reminder, again, CAAP task 1 should have already been submitted and cleared for everybody. If you have not, then you're behind the 8 ball, and you need to get that to me, because assignment CAAP Task 2 is due this coming Sunday, no later than 6 o'clock, for a final grade with me. So make sure that you get that in. Are there any questions about the CAAP at this time?
And make sure you post it in the correct place.
Thanks, Paulette. There's what you submit to Dr. Bull is his, but the final thing is you have to submit it in my Blackboard shell for a final grade, okay? But you don't do it until you have cleared with Dr. Bullis. Daryl?
I think you might have just answered my question. I have for the SIAP task 2, he gave me the grade for the review and then told me to do it in the assignment Dropbox. And so I'm just waiting on him to do that. And I know he's gone, so do I need to wait?
No, I can answer that question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I can. If he's cleared you and told you to put it in the assignment Dropbox, that means you can go ahead and send it to me.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, thank you so much.
Because that means you have done your editing for him and he's cleared it. That's just a formality to give you a grade for him.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, Julie?
If I did my CAAP last semester, can I still log the hours for it in the clinical experiences for the 100 hours for the summer?
Yes, just don't tell nobody but me.
Okay.
Just do it. Just don't tell anybody else but me. I'll let y'all do that. Okay.
It's discounted, so I just was hoping.
No. Go ahead if you haven't.
Thank you.
Okay. Was there another question?
No, it was just me. I'm getting ready to submit my SIAP task 1, and with Dr. Bullis out of town, I just want to make sure we still submit it to him first, even though he's on vacation.
Try to do that. Go through the process. However, if you have not heard from him within 24 hours, just send me an email and send it to me through the email, because I don't have a place for you to drop it in my course shell. So just send it an email and just say it's been 24 hours and I will not hold you up. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you.
And then you can still put it in there, and you'll still have to go through the process with him, but don't worry about it. Okay. Any more questions? Any more questions about the CAAP or the SIAP? Elizabeth, did I get you cleared up with your questions about the SIAP?
Yes, sir. I'll send you an email with the task.
Okay, got you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I think we're good to go. I'm going to stop my share. And we're going to begin our presentations today. Just a reminder, next week, Standard 3, Stacy, and Standard 4, Julie. Everybody good? Okay. And next week, the peer reviews will be, for Standard 3 will be Daryl and Amanda, and Standard 4 will be Dina and Stacy. This week, as a reminder, Elizabeth is doing Standard 1. Amber and Douglas, you're doing the peer reviews for them this week. And for Standard 2, Caitlin's presentation, Renee and Malika, you are doing the peer reviews for them. So everybody good? Okay, with that in mind, okay, I'm going to turn it over to the experts now. And Elizabeth, you're the first one.
Sounds good. I'm going to share my screen. Let me make sure. I didn't realize I had this many options open. 1 second. Okay. Are you all, it looks like you're able to share you're able to see my screen. Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So I have Standard 1, which looks at the mission, vision, and core values. And what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about what Standard 1 means. I am not in North Carolina, and so learning about these standards was different. And talking with my principal in South Carolina with the district that I'm in, we're more rated based on the goals that the superintendent sets academically for us at the school that I'm in. So I am going to talk to you guys a little bit about what I learned with Standard 1. And then I'm going to show you a secondary resource just because I'm the first to go. I thought it would be helpful for others who might be in South Carolina to understand the depths of the effectiveness of it and how it's rated on a rubric scale. And so this is the snippet from the National Policy Board for Educational Administration that came from our packet of resources for the standards. And what this does is it looks at the 7 different factors that are included with a school's mission, vision, and core values. So it looks, of course, at what the vision and mission is for the school, and that mission needs to promote academic success, but then it also needs to show that you've collaborated with the different stakeholders to ensure that that is a collective mindset, and then ensuring that that mission and vision does not just affect and promote academic success, but also addresses the whole child, specifically with inclusiveness, social justice, caring and trust, and then of course a continuous improvement. Some of the other things that are important to mention are that there is a strategic plan to implement, and the actions are identified in terms of establishing the mission and vision, as well as ensuring that this is shared throughout the school and throughout the community. So it is the leader's job and then the administrative team to ensure that they model it so that all members of the school environment can represent that mission, vision, and the values that are selected. I'm actually going to go into present mode so I'm not distracted by these squares that are popping up. So this is a secondary resource that I found from the Maryland State Department of Education. I really like a rubric, and so it was helpful for me to see going across the board. And I hope that this does align as well as I think that it aligns. But one of the things that it looks at is with the ineffective school leadership, it moves from ineffective to developing to effective and highly effective. And it puts all of those bullet prints down in the order, and you can see it grow, just like you would see an academic standard grow when you look longitudinally at what the students need to do. And then, as I mentioned, since I am the first one to share, I found this really meaningful to notice the verbs that are attached with being an ineffective leader, being a developing leader, effective and highly effective. Ineffective is really that you are aware that there are effective practices, but you're not demonstrating them. Developing is when there's signs that you're attempting to make that standard effective in your school. Effective is when you're implementing them. And then highly effective, I really liked that they use the verb spreads because it makes sense that you're affecting everyone and your leadership style, your leadership strategy, and what your administrative team is spreading throughout the building and the community. So those definitions of effectiveness, I just wanted to share with you guys for a second. So what does it measure and why is it important? So the top 4 points are kind of what it measures, what Standard 1 measures. And with Standard 1, you're looking at a mission and vision statement, and you're looking to see, do they promote academic success and inclusion of all students? We're also looking to see if the key stakeholders are involved in the analysis of the data and the decision-making process. What core values are being emphasized? I mentioned those earlier. And these core values also build the trust that we just spoke about in our case study. And then is there a sense of collective efficacy in carrying out the mission and the vision? So why is this important? And we know this from the different evidences that we've done throughout our work at Gardner-Webb. We know that it is important to involve critical stakeholders in not only the decision-making process, but also the analysis of the data. And that needs to guide the school's vision for instructional practices and the organizational structure. Also, the leaders identify and advocate for the values so that it can impact the school culture, and the students' well-being is considered when you're, developing that trusting relationship. So before I get into the mission and vision of Briggs, I did want to have just a second to talk to you guys about a little bit about what Briggs Elementary School has experienced. We received our first school report card rating of excellence this past year. We were always on the verge. We do not have an MLL population, and so we do not get the 10 points of growth. And so our students have to meet that. And our subgroups that we look at are specifically the special education subgroups. And a lot of the work that I've talked about in the artifacts have been addressing that. We've also had some other recognitions. We are a Leader in Me school. I don't know if anybody, I think Julie, your school might be still a Leader in Me school. And when you're a Leader in Me school, you can become a lighthouse status if you implement that structure. And a lot of what you'll see is coming from Leader in Me with our mission and our vision. We were also awarded the Blue Ribbon School of Excellence in the same year that we earned Lighthouse. So the academic growth, this is based on a 3-year. We have steadily increased our academic growth in both ELA and reading. We do have a slight discrepancy between math and reading. And so when you look at our mission and vision for Briggs, you'll see that we have a focus on mathematics and building and closing that gap in best instructional practices so that our students are performing if not, I'm a reading coach, so I always would like to know that reading is performing higher than the mathematics, but that is the goal. So our mission and vision statement is very simple. Our mission is to educate, prepare, and inspire, and our vision is empowered students. And so one thing that I looked at, and I know from taking the praxis, there's prep, the prep questions that you're talking about are talking about what your mission is. And the mission is kind of your why for doing and why you exist. And the vision is what you want to see accomplished, which is why I put we always have our graduating seniors come back and do a graduation walk. And so that speaks to the students being empowered all the way through kindergarten through 12th grade. And we have some other pictures and artifacts for how our students are empowered. So as I mentioned in the standard one, you need to ensure that your mission and vision is academically focused and you're ensuring academic success. And so part of being a Leader in Me school is our students set goals. We have classroom goals and we have school level goals. And so you'll see that here. And then we also have what's called a school-wide goal. And we track that, our students do that. And then once they set the WIG, which is based off of your GAP, and this year it was based off of mathematics, you set the WIG and then your students vote to see how they want to celebrate once they met their WIG. This is from this year. So they voted for a bouncy house, and we have to work alongside our APT to ensure that we have funds to hold the celebrations, but you'll see the different students celebrating their successes there. As I mentioned, empowered students, we have student leadership roles, and they are involved in every aspect of any school event. They lead awards day, they do job fairs, they mentor other classes, and then they also have classroom roles. This is actually one of our school board members that came to learn to see what the students were working on in class, and the leaders led her through the building and led her through the activities. The other part of being an empowered learner is student leadership. And so we have a student lighthouse team. Here they were doing a plus delta, and I was leading them through kind of reflecting on how the students felt that the weeks went with Kindness Week. We were coming up and planning Kindness Week, and they were reflecting on last year to ensure that all students could be involved and kind of making some ideas about what they could do to ensure that it was stronger or as good as they did with the planning process last year. And then we also, with Standard 1, talks about the importance of ensuring that stakeholders are involved. And so being a Leader in Me school, we have what's called Leader in Me at Home challenges. That's how our team of teachers who lead that action team decide to pull our family members in. And so the home highlight goes out and it talks about the healthy habits that Franklin Covey suggests teaching through being a Leader in Me school. And then we ask our parents to consider these 3 ways that they could show the habit at home, and then share those pictures with us. When the pictures are shared, they actually get a homework pass. And so the kids are pretty excited about doing that. And that was a free way to ensure that that they could be rewarded for doing those habits at home. So in this activity, we were asked to consider our strengths and weaknesses. And throughout, when I was looking at our teacher working conditions survey, throughout the survey, I could continue to use the results from the state department's teacher working conditions results, but I also pulled the MRA evidence. When you are a Leader in Me school, you are constantly, at least 1 time a year, they ask you to do it twice. You are surveying your teachers, you're surveying your students, and you're surveying your family members to determine how we are performing with the different areas of climate and culture. And so this is actually, you can see visually where some of our weaknesses were. The demands speaks to the demands of what teachers and support staff are held to. And then control is how much control do they have to empower their own instruction and lead their own learning and their students' learning. And we do well with manager support. So even though they feel like they don't have the control, they feel like they're supported by the administrative team, peer support, the relationships within school, what their role looks like, and then change. And quite honestly, the change has been pretty consistent in the last 2 years, but the narratives that are logged with the questions about change speak more to district level policies and changes that they're having to react to. So I'll talk a little bit more about our weaknesses in just a second, but I did want to align with our staff leadership before we move forward, because you'll see that even though they feel like the demands and the control are a little bit lower, they have done a really good job of moving away from what we are doing at Briggs to impacting district initiatives. And so I kind of wanted to celebrate how our mission and vision to be a farm to school program, which is where we started with our student roles, has impacted district level decisions. And they opened the Florence One Schools Farm based on the program at Briggs this year. So I thought that was pretty exciting. Our service learning is one thing that we also do to impact the community. And so even though we talked about Florence One and how it grew to have the farm at Florence One, every grade level chooses how they impact, how they can impact the community and choose a project to focus on. And so you'll see that we sent toys to the McLeod Hospital. We also have Kindness Week, where we've donated food drive items, the Florence Humane Society. And then we have a phenomenal group called Help for Kids that supports our students who do not have food means at home over the weekend. And so they get a bag of food to take home every weekend. And so we supported that food drive as well. So even though we're doing some really good things, the areas for growth that we noted and the need for continued improvement are in these 3 areas. We need to continue to build partnership and vision with our educators and our families. And I'll show you some data points in just a second. We need to continue to focus on empowering instruction, and then also the way to build academic success and new and ongoing staff development. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the data points for this that I've been able to pull. This is our need for educators and families. And so you'll kind of see how the teaching working conditions surveys results that are up at the top align with the same need when we do our MRA with Leader ME. And so our lowest areas with the educators and families were here with parents at my school are interested in their children's schoolwork. And then also parents attend conferences requested by teachers at my school. For academic results, you'll see that our lowest on our MRA is empowering instruction. And this is talking more about teacher choice and how they provide small group instruction and whole group instruction, what the materials are and their pace of instruction. But then also students are asked, do they have the chance to choose what activity they're going to do to lead their own learning? And so this is our lowest form here. New and ongoing staff learning. You'll see pretty visibly that it is the lowest in terms of the adults learning and modeling. So they feel comfortable about the direct lessons that they're doing, the service learning projects, but the new and ongoing staff learning is a struggle for us. And I think it's going to show even more so on the MRA next year, because we had our largest number of new teachers at Briggs during the school year. So for this project, we were asked to identify some activities that we can do to go through these weaknesses that I just mentioned. And so what I decided to do is stick with a similar kind of framework in terms of identifying the activity, talking about the timeline, the people who are responsible, the resources that we need, and the goal. And so with the educators and families, you notice that our teachers felt like our parents weren't coming in for conferences and they weren't engaged in their own children's learning. And so what we would like to do, one thing that I would like to propose is that we could ask those parents to come in and participate in the student's WIG. And that's their wildly important goal, that and I'll go quickly back to the goals here. Students write their own goal for their learning based on where they are low in. And so what I would like to propose after doing some research in the Leader ME platform is they are encouraged to ask parents to come in so that they can see the importance and the buy-in for the need for where that student is currently working based on the grade level expectation and performance. And so having that parent write that goal with them, understand the need for it, will also help them have that follow-up at home with homework. But then also when they come in for conferences, they'll understand the data points and the activities that the teacher's talking about in terms of growth. The other thing that I wanted to mention in terms of empowering instruction for our students and our teachers was the idea to add to our PLC schedule. So we have a PLC schedule where our teachers meet with the curriculum coaches and sometimes the admin team once a week. And so that schedule is already in place. But what I would like to see is that we are able to introduce and review some of the activities that the teachers have been able to learn through some of the professional development sessions, and have a chance for shared lunch, sharing what's working so that what they're doing in their classroom is spreading to others in their grade level, and then also in the grade levels below and above them. And then for the new and ongoing staff development, which was significantly weaker than other areas, also utilizing that PLC schedule to talk about the Leader ME direct habits, because as I mentioned, I know this is heavily based on the Leader ME, but this directly impacts our school vision and our school mission. And so our teachers need to be able to understand what terminology to use for the students, what those direct lessons look like when they're teaching them the skills, what it looks like to teach students to track their own academic growth. And so adding that into the monthly PLC sessions should be able to have a positive impact on our new teachers feeling like they're understanding the program. So I propose that all of these start in August because these are things that we could do right off the bat. You'll see that the people who are responsible depend on the action teams. So we have action teams for every teacher to be a part of. And we actually have an adult learning and modeling action team that would invite the parents in, come up with some activities to share with other teachers so that they can help with the conversation and developing the wildly important goals. And so this would involve students, parents, and classroom teachers. This is a free resource because it's part of our Leader in Me, sorry, my mind's going blank, the Leader in Me purchase that we make, our membership. And so the goal for this would be that parents, students, and teachers will collaborate to write the academic WIGs for 90% of students in 1st through 5th grade, which would be measured by the WIG data sheets in the student leadership notebooks. All of these resources they already have. We're just solely inviting, or I'm proposing that we would solely invite the parents in. For the empowering instruction, this would also involve an action team, which is the Achieve Goals and the Empowering Instruction Action Team. They are two different teams. The Achieve Goals talks about how to support our students in setting the goals, and the Empowering Instruction Action Team talks about the resources that we need and showcases the resources that we need for giving student voice and choice. And we would, of course, need access to the PLC schedule and rotation, and then the best practice resources that are available on the Leader in Me website, but then also within our curriculum alignment document. And the goal for this is that 100% of teachers would participate in the weekly PLCs to learn and apply best practices and collaborative learning opportunities. And that could be measured by their weekly lesson plans. For the new and ongoing staff development and the monthly PLC sessions in Leader in Me, we have a curriculum coordinator, and then I am the Lighthouse coordinator. And we would be responsible to collaborate together to find out what our teachers need support in, and then designing that PLC schedule and rotation based off of the needs. And the goal would be that the monthly rotation will include at least one PLC session on new and ongoing staff development practices focused on the eight habits, which would be measured by the PLC schedule in our KICKUP code. And our KICKUP is what the system we use to measure PLCs and professional development opportunities in CEUs. So I can't see y'all's faces. Hold on, let me figure out how. I think I just need to hit this escape button. There we go. So do you guys have any questions? Am I supposed to ask for questions, Dr. Steadman? Tell me the format.
Yeah, as you're bringing, first of all, excellent job. You have set the standards for us, and I appreciate that. Very well organized, very well planned, very well presented. Use this last few minutes to ask questions and comments from anybody that would have comments at this time. So you take it back.
Does anyone have any questions specific to what the standard is, or maybe what you noticed at Briggs? Is everybody from North Carolina? I know a lot of us are from South Carolina.
No,
Julie, you're not.
There's several from South Carolina as well. So comments from anybody.
One of the things I really liked about your presentation is that even though it is a mission and vision, you really pull in parents. And I know at the elementary school age, it's a little bit different than at the high school, but I like that you incorporated that into what you provided here.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Well said, Caitlin. And I was thinking about that during the presentation. Those of you that are at the middle grades area and the high school, you may have thought in your mind, how can I relate? But you can take everything that Elizabeth has said, and you can look at it at a high school level and adapt it to whatever level you are. Elementary schools, you can do much more because that's just the way it is. But
parents want to come in,
right?
Well, the parents that do want to,
right. But there's things that you can take from this, and you can, where you can't do things like at an elementary school, you can do it at a much larger scale. You can do small pieces of it and make it work at middle schools or at high schools. Other comments?
I was just
I
gonna
like-
ask about the Leader in Me. Do you really like that program? Our whole county is about to go Leader in Me, and that's a little nerve-wracking for teachers.
So my principal, and I forgot to tell you guys, hold on one second. Gets to I stopped too early. Okay. So my overall rating would be here with a highly effective leader. And Stacy, to answer your question, we have been implementing Leader in Me for 5 years, and has taken us 5 years for our mission and our vision and our teacher collective efficacy to all align. And it truly has taken that long. You are always going to have teachers and even parents who may not see the total buy-in. But what you do get, which is a really nice tool, is your measurable, your MRA results. And it breaks it down into all areas. And so when you are a Leader in Me school, the goal is to be 80 or higher in your different areas. And so when I supported the ranking of having a highly effective leader at Briggs, I looked through and we were 80%, even though I'm pulling weaknesses, we're 80% and higher in the majority of our areas. And so even though teachers may voice concern and frustration, collectively, they feel like it's effective. But I will tell you one thing that our coach told us, and that's the other thing, you get a coach that has some phenomenal resources in terms of promoting academic growth. But our coach has said it is a crock-pot method and not a like fast and moving. And if you have a leader and our principal was one of these leaders, if you have a leader that chose to let that go in one ear and out the other, it's going to be very hard to implement. And she openly said that. She said, I'm in year 2 of our journey. She said, I totally understand why we needed to do it that way. So go slow and steady. She's like one part of it if y'all end up going with it.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, because I had actually written down, I've heard of it, but I didn't know much about it. So you've given me enough that I'm going to do some more research on that. But which of your 6 evidences, everything about the Leader in Me, which of those 6 evidences does that tie directly into?
Climate and culture, I would think. And I've been able to pull everything for it. Really.
I was thinking of the APTEL.
Right. But it's also when you consider, and this is what our student lighthouse team talked about, I simply asked them, what do you feel like is important with the Leader in Me? And they all had phenomenal things that really made me have chill bumps, because these are 5th graders who have been in the program for 5 years, and they said things that I would have thought an adult would say. And so when you consider a child knowing their academic weakness and then also being able to make a plan to address that and share that with its parents and its teacher, it's just really neat, Dr. Simmons. So I've been able to utilize it with all of the evidences.
So thank you for tying all that in. Great job, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Okay, Caitlin is our next expert.
That's a lot to follow.
But you're very well prepared and equipped.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I am a high school teacher, so mine is a reflection on high school, and it's
good.
It's a completely different way of thinking, I think.
Okay.
So let me see. Let me share this.
Okay.
All right. Can you see my screen? Okay. So I am going to present this. My standard is Standard 2, Ethics and Professional Norms. I'm at Andrew Jackson High School. That's in South Carolina. So effective leaders, I just kind of took the bullet points from the standard and came up with an overview for what it was. The leaders are considering their personal conduct, the relationships that they build with each other, the decisions that they make, the way that they manage school resources and other aspects of the school. The professional norms, so how things are run, how transparent is the school, how trustworthy, how much collaboration goes on. A effective leader is student focused. So when the student is at the center of everything that you do, you have a driving point, value and promote literacy. So literacy, one big part of literacy is that you have to consider the background of the student and the culture that they come from. So it's a place that safeguards and promotes democracy, individual freedom and responsibility, equity, social justice, community, and diversity. Social and emotional awareness, so being aware of the backgrounds of students and staff members, and ethical and professional, they provide moral direction for the school. So one thing I will say, I didn't put this into my presentation, but my high school is a rural high school. We have about 620 students, and it is a close-knit community, but I'm probably going to come across as being critical. I self-label as the chief critical officer. I don't have a problem saying something that I don't necessarily agree with. So in short, the standard measures the integrity of school leaders. Effective leaders value their people. They seek to be fair, transparent, and culturally informed. Without being able to understand the teachers and the students that are in your building, you can't really know what they need. So you have to be aware of your people. In reflection of my school, I feel like the leadership performs well as far as social and emotional well-being, both for students and staff. But I feel like the instructional processes within the school need to be assessed and improved in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to focus on that a lot for the rest of the presentation. The strengths of the school, one thing that our principal has done really, really well is the way that she budgets the money. Prior to her taking the seat, the school was in $40,000 debt. She's cleared up all of that debt, and now whenever we ask for things, she has money to provide. We can do activities for students, whereas before we couldn't really do those things. Decision making, the school administration collaborates a lot, which I was kind of on the fence about, is this a strength or is this a weakness? The administration collaborates a lot, and it is a group effort. Very few decisions are made without a meeting of the minds, as they call it. I ride the fence on this being a positive versus being a negative, because it is just one viewpoint from an administrative seat versus having the viewpoint of students and faculty involved. And then inclusivity, our school has a lot of initiatives to make students feel invited and welcomed. We do clubs every Friday. And so some of the clubs we have religious groups that meet and the students lead those. We have a friends and allies group. Legally, we have a student who has to pray at certain times throughout the day. So legally, you have to accommodate those things. But when the student enrolled at our school, they jumped right in, and they didn't hesitate in that. So I do feel like the school is very good at including the students. Another thing, since it is such a small community, our town has programs for youth enrichment, not just for the little kids, but they go up through graduating seniors. And the school takes a lot of roles within that. So community-wise too, I feel like our school is very involved. The things that need improvement, like I said earlier, most of this is related to the instructional aspect of the school. And it's something I spent a lot of time thinking about. This year I taught seniors, and I continue to think, you're getting ready to get a diploma, but do you really know enough to be graduating from high school? Are you where you need to be in order to be successful in the workforce, and then to be successful if you go to higher education? And I sadly don't think most of them are. So the first thing that needs improvement is the instructional leadership. My principal has never been in my classroom, and I have only been observed twice as far as a walkthrough goes. Very rarely do walkthroughs happen in our school, and 9 times out of 10 you can find all 3 administrators in the principal's office if you need them, and that includes supervising time too. So whenever we have class change, whenever we're at lunch, teachers do all of the supervising, and if admin's kind of shut off in the office. So that's one thing that needs improvement. The next is the integrity of the diploma, and I have some artifacts to show you as far as this goes, but we have an excellent graduation rate, and in my opinion, that means very little to nothing if the quality of your graduate is not what it should be. And then the last thing is communication. Most of the time I'm on the leadership team, I usually find out about things that we're going to talk about in our department meetings the night before around 9 or 10 o'clock, and we have our meetings in the morning at 8 o'clock. So communication is lacking, and there's no type of empathy interviews to see how other people outside of those working in the office view the school. And I will say this too, and I know this is kind of this might be a controversial thing to say, but a lot of the data that comes from the state survey, the climate survey that's given out in January, a lot of teachers say they're not completely honest on that survey because they don't trust that it's not linked back to them. So in conversation, a teacher will say one thing, but then the data from these surveys doesn't line up with what you hear teachers saying. So that was something I kind of considered when I was creating this presentation. So here is our graduation rate. As you can see, our school performs pretty high above both our district and the state. We have a 91.7% graduation rate, and this is from this past school year. I did include from the state website the legislation that was put in as far as profile of the South Carolina graduate. And as I read over these things, it's not just being able to know math and be able to read at a college and career level, but it's also life skills and characteristics like integrity, which is lacking because of things like AI. Self-direction, global perspective, perseverance, work ethic, and interpersonal skills. A lot of these things are missing. Now, I will say, again, I taught seniors this year, and those seniors missed the bulk of their middle school ages or middle school courses in the school environment. So that's foundational in learning a lot of these skills. And when they get to high school, we don't focus so much on those as we do on the educational part of it. But as I said earlier, I don't think that the graduation rate lines up with this profile that the state has put forth. And to further that point, this is assessment data from this year's school report card. As you can see, our school performs below the district and the state in both reading and math. So although we have a very high graduation rate, we're performing below other groups. And then the third point that I made was about communication. These are the school norms that we came up with at our faculty meeting at the beginning of the school year. And as I mentioned, there's not a lot of communication that comes from the top down. And when it does come, it comes kind of after the fact or right before something's supposed to happen. So you don't have a lot of time to plan or prepare, which is kind of a ethical thing. When you respect the people that you're working with, you consider how successful am I allowing them to be. So following the PLC norms, we have them in place. So we have the appearance of it, but they're not always completely implemented. One of the things that I included in this while I was thinking about it, how do you improve this system? Because I know that this is not just my school. Most high schools feel this, but every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. That's the central law of improvement. And I think that the school as we have it now is set up to pass students through. There aren't a lot of things that necessarily line up. Like, for example, the testing data and the graduation rate, they don't line up. How can students perform poorly on the standardized test, but then graduate with a high school diploma? So there are questions that come up there. Parts of an improvement plan that I could walk through with my administration. Leadership team involvement. Our leadership team met twice this year. So in order for things to be successful when you're running an operation that has 620 students involved, 45 staff involved, you need to have multiple perspectives. Teachers are the experts in the classroom. When you've moved out of the classroom, you don't have that perspective as much as they do. So you do need teacher perspective. Conduct empathy interviews. So these empathy interviews would be to conduct interviews with teachers who are the people involved in the education process and with students who are the people impacted by the education process, and gain an understanding of their perspective on the things that they're doing and the way that things are run within the school. The educational setting is for students. So whenever we look at the model that we have, is the system working for the students, or is the system working for the adults that are in the building? Implement walkthroughs. To me, this is a non-negotiable, and it's a point of frustration that we don't have walkthroughs. We don't get feedback on what we're doing in the classroom. So if the administrators would develop a plan for how they want to do the walkthroughs, they could get through every teacher in a week by doing 3 a day. And then Dr. Caton said, I kind of changed it here, but she said, inspect what you expect. And so I think that that's true. If you expect rigor, you have to inspect that your teachers are providing rigorous instruction. We can't just assume. It's like with that case study. We can't just assume because somebody's been a long time member of a school that they're always doing the right thing or they're always reaching a specific level that they need to reach. And then the consistent grading policies, just as far as equity and grading, and to make sure students are reaching a specific level, coming up with something that would be put in place for the school as a whole. That was the last thing. So questions and comments?
First of all, I want to say, Caitlin, again, very, very well presented, very well planned out. I like the fact that you were so transparent. A lot of people would have shied away from that, or some people would have. I like the fact that you were so transparent. And I couldn't help but to think what you have done. Remember, in all of the work that you've done, basically, it culminated with a plan of action, because you had to look at, for school improvement, you're always looking at, you look at the positives, but you have to really focus on the negatives, because that's the only way that you can implement school improvement. So what you have done, Caitlin, and you've got a broad perspective of your school's needs. You have basically, in this presentation, you unpacked every evidence that you have done in this program. I was able to see that. So well done with that. And I'm going to shut up in just a minute and let the rest of you speak. I can tell you, I served as an assistant principal for 8 years before I became a principal at an elementary school. My first 2 years was with an administrator that was weak as a wet washcloth. My next 6 years after that was with one that I learned everything and more that I needed to know how to be a successful principal when I finally got my own school. So the takeaway that I would like all of you to see is this: all of you are in different settings, different situations. Caitlin, you've extracted all the things from your school that you know are not good for overall school improvement. So when you become that administrator, you know already these are things that I cannot allow as an administrator. Can you change where you are? Sometimes you can help implement change. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. But you can learn from it, and you can say, when I get my opportunity, I will not allow this to happen. So I think you're grounded in where you need to go, Caitlin. Good job. Okay. Go ahead, Caitlin. I'm going to let you take over, and I think Malika and Elizabeth both have their hands raised. So,
okay, Malika.
Great job, Caitlin. Really enjoyed your presentation. Also, I enjoyed yours too, Elizabeth. It was amazing. I didn't get to say anything. But I do like. Well, it makes me think about a conversation that I had today with one of my colleagues, and we was talking about data, right? A lot of people would say like the data, because the data is the end all be all, and it's not, right? Because sometimes we could take that data and we could spin the narrative how we want to spin the narrative. And the fact that you said that the graduation rate is high, right? Some would say, oh, our graduation rate is high, so we must be doing something right? But you got to look at other data points as well, right? Like your school report card, your the things that you observe in school, etc. And I think that everything aligns with, like, your data does support what you're seeing. You know, yes, the graduation rates are high, but look at our school report card. The scores are low. So how can we say that our students are getting what they need?
it's not
Right.
aligning, it's not balancing. Yeah.
Right. It's not balancing. So I think, you know, sometimes people are so data driven that they look at only one element. And what you're talking about here today, you talked about different facets that pulls the story full circle. And that's what I heard today. And it's so easy to relate to that because I'm sure everyone see similar things, you know,
Exactly.
in their schools, because it's all about what we teach and how we teach and student learning. At the end of the day, that's what school is about.
I agree.
I
Well
think a
said.
lot of that.
Okay. Caitlin, go ahead and quit sharing so we can see everybody. Stop your share. Are you through with your presentation?
Yeah, it's not showing. I don't think it's sharing. It must have.
Yeah,
Oh no, I'm not.
it's
I'm
still
not. I
showing.
am
Yeah,
sharing.
there we are
Sorry.
now. Okay. Go ahead.
What was I about to say? I was just gonna say, I think that last week we talked about the difference between being a manager and being a leader. And I think a manager is driven by data, because you can say, this is what we're doing, this is where we're at, this is XYZ. But a leader is willing to say, here's the data, but how does the narrative not align with what the data is saying? And how can we change our processes to make the data reflect what it should be, which is a fair education for the students. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I related to the fact that you stuck with the walkthrough data. I feel like that was one of the first things that we learned through the program about the, the importance of it and the effectiveness of it. And that's something that I keep, going through the SIAP. That's something that has continued in my mind to pop up as ensuring that instruction, as you said, inspect what you expect. And so I just wanted to say that I related to that. I think it was important.
Remember, in all of your plans of action, thank you, Elizabeth, in all your plans of action, remember we talked about the summative and the formative assessments, and we said that the formative assessments was not for the students, it was for the adults. So again, that is looking at things formatively. You can say inspect what you expect, but those are just words if you don't put action behind it. So
this is a question I have. I know I'm supposed to be the expert, but this came up last semester and I never did seek clarity on it. But one of the things that I was told when I asked a question was it was about recovery hours and how a student had more recovery hours than legally the state allows, but the student was still allowed to graduate. And I was told that principals have the ability to grade and pacify, and I didn't really understand what that means.
I was a high school principal for 6 years, so there were times that it's a case by case. Sometimes, and I'm not bashing teachers when I say this because you get emotionally attached to things sometime, and this is the way I always tried to when I counseled with teachers about struggling students. I told them, I said, you've got to learn how to do two things. I says, if you always make decisions based on what's up here, I said, you probably will not always make the best decisions. I said, and if you base your decisions based on how you feel right here, you're probably not. I said, somehow in all of this, you've got to learn how to let this and this come together. And once you can do that, then you can make a best decision that you can make for that situation. And there were times that I would have to override a teacher's decision. And I won't take a lot of time, but I'll use a case in point. I had a Hispanic child that language was a barrier for her. Now, if you talk to her, her name was Rosanna. If you talk to her, she could recall everything that the teacher had said. She could do anything, but when she had to put it to paper, it didn't match. So when she took her state test in biology, this was a biology class, she could probably outperform anybody talking about it in class, but when it came to the test, she couldn't do it. Well, that was an EOC, and that was she didn't pass it. So that teacher wanted to fail her, which would have kept her from graduating. And that teacher was very, very upset with me for a little while because I overrode her decision and I let the child graduate because I knew that that was the right thing. 20 years later, this same teacher is working at the community college. I run into her often, and there's hardly a time that she does not bring that up to me. And she said, Dr. Stedman, she said, I thank you for challenging me and doing what you did. She says, I have learned since what you meant by what you said to me, and that has made a difference in the rest of my teaching career. So I said all that to say this. We do have that right, Caitlin, to grade and classify, and we do have the final decision. Now, it's rare that you would do what I did, but there are times when you have to. It's a case by case study, but you can do that. The state of North Carolina, anyway, the principal is the one that is ultimately in charge of grading and classifying students. Does that answer that for you?
Yes. I guess the where I'm not quite clear is like with recovery hours. Is that documented?
Now I have never seen that. I have never seen that. I'm not saying that it's not. We have in Robinson County, we have a learning accelerated program. It's called LAP, and it's for struggling students that if you didn't go through LAP, probably you're not going to graduate because traditional school just has not done it for you. So we take them through the LAP program, and we are able to do a lot of intense one-on-one with students, small settings, small group settings, and we're able to cover a lot in a much shorter period of time. So they would accumulate, more time and more hours because of the intense one-on-one that they're getting to be able to get there. In fact, I'm with communities in schools, and I have two re-engagement coaches hired for two of our high schools, struggling high schools. And I wasn't able to bring them back on board until January. So this coming Tuesday, we will celebrate 42 or 43, I can't remember, 43 students from these two high schools that have gone through the recovery process. And had we not done this, these students would not have been able to graduate. Now you have to look at this. Do you want to look at the gray area? And do you want to, now, you don't want to, you've got to use integrity in this process. And naturally, did they get everything that they would get if they had gone through a full semester and really? No. But did they get enough that you can justify what you're doing? And you've got to weigh this. Do you want an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old usually? Do you want a 19-year-old that is going to become a statistic and be a dropout, can't find a job, be a part of the system? Or do you want to give them this opportunity and try to direct them in a skill area where they can at least get a job? And we've had some that have successfully gone on and learned a trade at the community college as a result of this. We will have some of this group to do it. Do you all 42, will they do that? No. But if you can get half of them to do it, then you would have accomplished what you need to accomplish. So that's that gray area that you have to work with. Everything is not just black and white. That gray area that you have to look at if you're going to be a successful administrator. I hope that helps. I can tell you, I've had to really play with that gray area a lot over the years. And if I made an error, if I erred, I wanted to err in favor of the child, not against them. Okay, so I said more than I was going to say, but I thank you for allowing me.
And Caitlin, you asked about the documentation of recovery hours. And I know at our high school, it's an in-house document. It's not something that the state department sees. I don't know if that's what you were asking, how it was documented. So it's something that the administrators have at our high school that they keep record of. But what is reported to the State Department is that they fulfilled that class.
Yeah, I don't think they see the hours per se. They just take the proof of whoever validates it at the school district level.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to say great, great, great presentations from both of you. I'm very, very, very pleased with how this has begun. And I know that I'm just looking forward to next week already. And I know that we're going to get, you know, equally, it's going to be great. And the good thing about it is Elizabeth took one road, Caitlin took another road, and I learned so much from both of you with the roads that you've taken. So, and that's what it's all about. We should have great takeaways from all 13 presentations that we have. So great jobs. Are there any questions of me before we close out? It's getting, I was hoping we great discussions, but I'm going to try my best on these presentation nights to get us out by 7:30 if we can. But if not, then so be it. It's summer school and we're finishing it in 10 weeks instead of 15. So, but I don't want to prolong it, just to prolong it. Any questions about next week? Okay, in review. Assignment 3, the Johari window, due by Sunday by 6 o'clock. Those of you that owe me, anybody owes me CAAP 1, I need it yesterday. CAAP 2 is due by Sunday of this week. And then any of you that's working on the SIAP, if you don't hear from, and even with the CAAP, if you don't hear from Dr. Bullis in a timely manner, you reach out to me. You just call me and just say, Dr. Stedman, it's been a amount of time. What do you want me to do? You pick up the phone and call me and let me know, okay? And we'll work through it. I don't want that to be the holdup for you. We'll get through it. Okay, all minds and hearts and minds clear? Good. Thank
Dr.
y'all all.
Stedman,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I have something for when everyone else leaves, if that's
Okay,
okay.
okay,
Julie
good.
and I also do as well.
Okay, Elizabeth, you're recording, so you're going to have to.
I just hit stop recording, but it still
Okay.
says recording. So it must also be on your end, Dr. Stedman.
Okay, well, anyway, is any of it so personal because I don't want to start recording in case. Are you okay with it still recording? Because you're just going. Okay, go ahead and talk to me. We're through. And those of you that don't need to stay, you can leave. Okay.
Do I need to stay, Dr. Stedman?
Yes, stay.
Because
stay, Elizabeth.
okay.
Yeah, stay. Okay, go ahead, Mary.
Okay, I'm
Renee.
working on CAAP 2, and we have to get or task 2, and we have to get the survey. And you said something about sending it to Dr. Lamb for approval, correct?
If you're going to do the no, don't worry about it, because you're going to do the same 5 questions, right?
Yes, sir.
Don't worry about it. Just go ahead and do it.
Just go ahead. Well, I was saying I had one out there that I didn't realize was out there that can be distributed. Can I just distribute that one and
yes, and you
collect
went
the
through
data from
Qualtrics.
that?
You went through Qualtrics, didn't you? Was it a Qualtrics survey?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it has to be a Qualtrics survey, but yes, go ahead and do it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I got you back if anybody says anything.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Stedman, did you approve Mandy and I to switch?
Did, and I put that in the new, it's in the new template. I thought I communicated back with y'all about that.
We just got a blank email from you, so that's why we were asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. Yes, you're approved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
I wish y'all had called me before now.
That's okay.
You're never going to bother me, okay?
Okay, thank you.
And Dr. Stedman, I've received a blank email from you before as well, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Don't either. But anyway, okay. If you get a blank email, call me or send me a message. Say, I got a blank email from you. Just do that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good night, guys.
But y'all are good. Okay. Okay. Bye, Paulette. Okay. Okay, Elizabeth, I think we're going to stop. And if it.
Will you hit stop recording and see what happens?
Let me see what it does. Okay. Stop.